citizen.
Out of many
we are world citizen, same vision is for equal rights and justice for the people them. What's happening to this beautiful world that we're living in? World citizen, lift up your voices.
Welcome to another episode of the People Powered Planet podcast. This time in a special cooperation with megameetings.com, our co-host and created by our wonderful friend Ozwem Isiri, who is bringing together Rotarians from around the world to join in peace building. And today we have a very, very special guest. It's Roger Abbiss, who is the founder of Occupy Earth. Occupy Earth. We all heard of the Occupy movement. Today we're going to hear about how we do it on a planetary basis. He's also an entrepreneur. He started pro-social businesses like MarketBox, which brings together organic farmers with people who want to buy it. This works for healthy food and other things. But he's also a board member of the World Federalist Movement of Canada. And this is a group that has been sounding the alarm that the current system is broken and that we need a whole better way of running the world. We've talked about a Supreme Court of the Earth. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you our very special guest, Roger Abbiss. Welcome, Roger. I'd love to start off by asking you about the essential problem facing humanity. I mean, everybody's concerned. Everybody thinks that, my God, things are terrible and going in the wrong direction, but they feel powerless. They feel like there's no way they can do something about it. And they write letters, they call their congressmen, they do all these things, they recycle cans, but they don't feel it's really making a difference. What is the key reason why all that isn't making a difference? And what do we need to do about it?
Right. Well, thank you, Arthur, and thank you for platforming Occupy Earth. I've come to describe it as we're like an animal on a planet that's been caught in a trap, and the trap is of our own design, and it's a trap that we made, so it's a trap that we can change and we can fix it. But we have to first recognize that that's what's happened, that we've developed systems have emerged that are not aligned with human life or frankly any life. There's almost every system that you could think of is not working for humanity, and so we need to make changes. And there's lots of ways you can do that, of course. But one of the fundamental problems, and I think I'm probably preaching to the converted here a little bit, is that we don't have governance at the planetary scale. So we have governance at all other levels, but when you reach the planetary scale, there's no planetary governance.
That's a very interesting point, because one of the things that Gary Davis, who inspired our podcast, People Powered Planet podcast, world citizen #1 Gary Davis, said that, in every single jurisdiction, it's illegal to kill people, except at the global. At the global level, it's just perfectly fine. You can go kill people, slaughter millions, get medals for it. And there's a disconnect here. How can it be legal to just murder, rape, pillage at a global level? What's the problem? Why can't we do? Why is that allowed?
It's allowed because we don't have, in every other jurisdiction, if you were to pull out a gun and wave it around the room or shoot someone or a dozen people would probably call the police. They'd dial 911 and the police would show up and they'd be probably arrested, they would be prosecuted, and they would probably be incarcerated. And that's true and of course, if you park in the wrong spot in your city, you'll be given a ticket for doing that, and you'll have to pay the ticket because you can't renew your license without paying that ticket. If you import drugs into your country, you'll be prosecuted by your country. But if you go above the nation state level, you can roll tanks over a border, you can shoot and kill people, and even if it's illegal, and in some cases it definitely is, there's no enforcement mechanism. There's no effectively, there's no courts for that. Effectively, there's no government for that, and there's no enforcement agency. So that's I think you just nailed it, Arthur.
Yeah.
That's the nut we need to crack.
All right. So now, given that, and given that, tell us first a little bit about the World Federalist Movement and how what their solution was, and then how that needs to evolve currently. But let's start with that.
Sure. Yeah, the Federation movement was started, I think, in 1947. Albert Einstein was one of the founding members, and back in the late 40s and the early 50s, there was a lot of support around the world for a world federation or a world government. And even in the United States, and proponents were included Winston Churchill and E.B. White and Einstein, and I mean, there's a lot of very influential people that supported the idea, and there were people in Congress that supported the idea. But over time, it sort of waned a little bit, and the driving force, of course, was nuclear war. The fear of nuclear war was the reason we needed to do this, and still the reason we need to do this. We still need a world government, and we still need it because of the threat of nuclear war. But now, since 1945, for the first time in history, we were able to end all life on this planet with the nuclear bomb. Now we have multiple ways of ending all life on this planet, including the climate crisis and possibly artificial intelligence gone wrong and other things. So the World Federation movement has been around for that long, and it's more of an umbrella organization trying to support other movements like ours. And so our belief at Occupy Earth is that the leaders of the countries of this planet are not likely to do anything about the problems we're having because it's not in their interest. So nation states, one of the reasons they don't give up the nuclear weapons is because I'm not going to give up my nuclear weapons if you're not going to give up your nuclear weapons. And even if you say you're going to give up your nuclear weapons, I'm not going to trust you. And so I'm going to keep mine anyway. It's a collective action problem that is exacerbated by the fact that we're caught in this trap. I mean, it's the same with the climate change. Like why wouldn't we all just reduce our emissions by 20% every year until we get rid of this problem? Well, we could, and we would perhaps, if we were all on the level playing field, and it wasn't going to harm my country by doing it alone. So nobody goes first. Nobody wants to act alone because you get punished for doing so.
So let me now take a moment, because what excited me about you is your Occupy Earth website. Take back the planet. Occupy Earth. We know there's a huge Occupy movement that began to challenge Wall Street and challenge the 1% controlling all the 99% of us. And now what Occupy Earth does is take that up to another level. How do we take back our planet? Every nation on scroll down, please, Melanie. Every nation, here we go. We face global existential threats: climate collapse, runaway AI, fractured global leadership. Occupy Earth is a nonviolent global civil resistance movement calling for a new path forward. So we have to really create a global body that enacts and enforces global laws to halt climate change, to focus artificial intelligence, and for the greater good. Well, this is so crucial that we go global, because if there's no law out there to stop it, it's just like, if you had any city with absolutely no law, it'd be total anarchy, and that's what we have in the world. So we do need to create that new system, and I love that you're talking about Occupy Earth, because it's a way that goes back to we the people. It's not just begging and pleading governments to change because they're stuck in that broken system. It's a way to get people to think about how we, the people, have the power to create something new. We invented the old things, we can create something new. Tell us more about Occupy Earth and how you see that moving into a global nonviolent movement, but beyond a movement, an actual global system to create a new way of governing planet Earth. Not stuck in some old broken systems, but something that fits in with the incredible, exciting new technologies we have for people to be involved in empowerment.
Sure, yes. Well, I mean, if you think about any government, a democratic government, for example, the U.S. is obviously an example that we use all the time, but if you look at the Congress of the United States, it's not a cross section of society. I think it's like something like 36% lawyers. There's nothing wrong with lawyers, but the population, the number of lawyers in the population is about 3%. So it's multiple times. Actually, it's not even 3%. It's less than that. But anyways, multiple times of what the Congress has, and so the if we had a proper cross section of society in our governments, then we would do what the people want. This is the kind of the whole point of having a democracy, right? If the people are in power, then the majority of people who've already said that they would prefer that we uh, get rid of nuclear weapons, the majority of people already agree that we need to take serious action on climate change. The majority of people already agree that we need to pump the brakes on AI development until we can figure out a way to do it safely. And yet the majority of the people are not being listened to, including inside of democracies. So there's clearly a need for a people-powered, a citizen-centered, transparent, democratic world government. Ideally, we'd have this in every country as well, and maybe that's an aspiration we can work toward. But we are very, very close to um, the edge, I guess I would say, approaching the precipice of extinction, really. So we need to act quickly, and the first thing we need to do is to establish a properly constructed, radically democratic World Federation to get there.
Now, one of the key things I think that scares people is to say, "What, a world government? We're already seeing how horrid uh, governments can be, and what kind of damage they can cause in the world. What if there was no escape? We couldn't get out of it. What if this world government became, a dictatorship and enslaved us all?" And what's your response to that?
Right. Well, it's like I said, we need to a world, any government really, but especially as you point out, a world government needs to be very carefully constructed. And that's why I say world federation rather than world government. If someone were to suggest to me that we need a world government that would look just like the democratic government of the United States, I would say no, thank you. That's not going to work. Clearly, we've a proper government that is a cross section of society, and the people would have the power to make decisions and to vote on issues and to do all. There are so many different ways that especially with new technology that we can have people directly involved in decision making with democracies. And so I'm not proposing any particular structure for this. This is not my job. I'm proposing that we get together as human beings and we bring in all the experts. We gather with citizens assemblies and experts, and in law and in governance and in uh, environment and all those things, and we get them all together, and we design a system that will work. This has already been done in multiple places. Taiwan being a great example with the brilliant Audrey Tang, and other countries have been experimenting with democracies and do things much, much more um, efficiently and properly than we are doing in most democracies. Um, to answer your question, people say to me, "Well, do we really want more government?" And I say, No, we want the amount of government that we need, and we want proper government, and we don't have much of that in any case. So we absolutely need um, to be able to enact and enforce laws that big corporations and nation states have to abide by. And the only way to do that is with World Federation.
So I think you've pointed to something key, and you mentioned no thanks to the to having the current system imposed globally. And I think you're absolutely right. The current system of elections is actually a race to the bottom. When 51% win and 49% lose, people vote not for a candidate. That's not all the things they believe in and want. They're voting against the worst guy. Okay, that guy's worse. We got to vote for this one. That guy's worse. We got to vote for that one. And billions are poured into it. And it's just a totally dysfunctional race to the bottom and race to extinction for humanity. Now, but if you think about it, it seems like our society is incredibly polarized. Everybody's divided. Well, that grows out of a systemic issue that's based on that kind of democracy, and also that social media is not pro-social. There are people working on pro-social and how, not if it bleeds, it leads. It sort of it brings out the worst in humanity. So you mentioned the experiment with Audrey Tang in Taiwan. Now, this is incredible. In Taiwan, a very divided country, was able to institute a new, really people-powered direct civic democracy where they took people on all the different sides of political issues and were able to bring them together because they created systems and structures that allowed people to talk with each other and to get at what they really want. And all the people who seemed divided actually had common things that they want. They all want. We all really want the same things on planet Earth: a better life for our children. We want to help our neighbors. We want a planet that thrives. We want clean air. It's the system that pushes us into the wrong decision, and the fact that they actually created a model of that actually functioned, where people could be directly involved in governance, directly involved in creating laws, and actually coming to a collaborative uh, decision on what we want to do, even across what was such great divisions. So many times these nonviolent revolutions then are followed by some oppressive state because they don't move it into the governing way. They move nonviolence into a new way to govern, and it worked. So it's a terrific model. If people go to our website, theworldismycountry.com, and click on podcast and scroll down, you'll see the replay of the wonderful video of Audrey Tang, who we hope to have as a future guest, talking about what they've done. She talks about how they've restructured their democracy to actually function and bring people together, regardless of whether you're right wing, left wing, whatever. Your heart and love can reach across those boundaries and bring us together. Or tell me where you are in evolving this Occupy Earth movement and how we can see it bring in millions of people, reach the critical numbers to actually make it work.
Sure. Yeah. Let me just comment on Audrey Tang's It was the Sunflower Revolution in Taiwan, and they actually occupied the government buildings there to get for I think I don't know 12 days or something to achieve their demands. But they not only achieved their demands, but Audrey Tang was given a position in the cabinet of the government. These things can happen, and they can happen fairly quickly. The other thing I'd like
He
to mention
became
about
the digital minister, right? The digital
that's right.
minister.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the technology allowing them to bridge the gap between the right and the left and whatever, which is absolutely true. And this is also what we see in citizens' assemblies. So in citizens' assemblies, you choose a random sampling of people, much like the way you choose a jury, and you task those people with usually a specific issue. So I think in Ireland's case, it was gay marriage or abortion or maybe even both. But in any case, what they find in these citizens' assemblies is that people come together. So you're on a call like this one with a bunch of faces, and you're talking about the issues, and and because you're together, because you're working on a common or on an issue, people are more respectful of each other. They listen to each other. They end up coming together. Some people on the right come to the side of the left if that's what it takes, and vice versa. It is collaborative, and that's not how we govern today, and that's how we need to govern collaboratively with the people in power. And when I say the people, I mean a cross section of people, not you know people that are multimillionaires many times over holding positions of power, because those people are not representing the poor and the if we had a proper cross section of society, we'd have 30 or 40% of the people in Congress would be low income people. There's no low income people in Congress, so that shows you right there that we're not being represented by the people.
Right.
And I guess sorry, Arthur, the other thing is you mentioned, and I think this is really important, is that we need to be able to imagine a better world. Like what holds us back to a very large degree is our inability to imagine getting there. What's that famous saying? It's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. Well, it shouldn't be so hard. We've done this before. We shook off the divine right of kings, right? We triumphed over the Nazis. Like the people have done many things that would be described as impossible today. And so when people tell me what we're trying to do is impossible, I say, just look at history. History is a compendium of impossible events that have taken place over time. And very often, if not most often, they are people powered and more recently, nonviolent. Nonviolent movements are twice as successful as violent movements. They get a lot more people behind them, and it doesn't take a huge percentage of the population to make change. There's a very influential book called Why Civil Resistance Works, and in that book, the author describes the fact that at 3.5% active participation by a population, historically, it suggests that you will succeed with your movement. So it doesn't take 50%. It takes 3.5%, and that's hopefully there's 3.5% in this room, but maybe not quite. But we'll get there.
Excellent. Well, now what I want to do is take a moment now to play a short clip from our founder, Gary Davis, where he talks about how we can create this kind of people-powered planet, how we can take that kind of interactive democracy that brings out the highest and best of each person and take it to the global level.
Here in Vermont, we have town hall meetings. Today, with the internet, we can all meet in the same room, the global room. We don't have to give our power away to representatives who become magnets for special interest money. We don't have to be imprisoned by the inventions of the 1700s. We don't need a middleman. What if we invent a governing system in which each of us can participate? Not mob rule, but true collaboration. What if we invent world money? Why not? We humans are an incredibly ingenious species. Why squander our genius on inventing smart bombs to do ourselves in? Why not use our great ingenuity to invent SmartGov, a way we can all interactively and intelligently and heartfully govern our communities, our regions, and our world. Visionary, you bet, but doesn't every advance start with imagination? When we catch the vision of a people-powered planet, then In this era of instant communication, we'll be able to evolve the tools and the platforms we need to bring the highest and best wisdom of each individual to the task of governing planet Earth. Once we tap into the sovereignty of the whole, we can unleash the genius of humanity. End war, end oppression, solve global warming.
There's a vision for how we can come together as a planet. Give us briefly your comments on Gary's vision.
It's hopeful. It has the imagination that we need. It's like so many of our movies and media are about doom and gloom and dystopia. And we've done, like, if you look at some of the better democratic countries in the world, they're very good places to live. The whole world could be like that. There's no reason we can't do that. The whole world could just take the lessons of the very best systems that are out there, pull them all together, and make a much, much better world. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, now you've talked about having a Supreme Court of the Earth. Tell us your vision for a Supreme Court of the Earth.
I'm not designing these systems. This is something for experts and citizens assemblies to do together. But clearly, most countries have courts. Most countries have a Supreme Court. Most countries have a police force. All those things are what's necessary for a government to function properly. So it makes sense that we would require a Supreme Court for the Earth. And if two countries have a beef now and they can't solve it, they end up going to war, which doesn't really make sense for anybody. And if you look at even the United States, another example of that is Harry Truman said something about the fact that when two states argue about the access to water in one of the rivers, they don't call it the militia and go to war. They take their case to the Supreme Court and they abide by the decision. And there's no reason in the world we can't do that internationally. And those are the words of Harry Truman.
Yep. Now, so here's the key thing. We see right now how a Supreme Court can get totally corrupted if it's appointed by people. Obviously, we need some new people-powered, better way of bringing to the top the highest and best and wisest system of how we can create a Supreme Court. And now the World Service Authority, which is and the World Citizen Government that Gary created, they've actually are working on a World Court of Human Rights. And there are already some other global institutions like the International Court of Justice, but again, it doesn't have enough enforcement power. It can enforce its power over little countries that violate the law, but big ones just thumb their nose at it. And there's currently no court for honoring our rights. And so they're working to create that. And one of the things that we'd love to have you explore, we continue to explore as we talk about citizen assemblies and so on, is how we can make that global court system that truly represents the wisest people that really care about and are interactively connected with the world. We have actually a whole plan and program idea where everybody could be interactively involved in giving it, just like the Audrey Tang thing, that we could actually all be interactively involved in advising this court on and bringing in genius elements and things that people know about, and bringing really the whole wisdom of the planet to bear on making these important decisions at the global level that would be restricted to only the issues that affect the survival of the whole planet, the issues that really make it possible to continue life on Earth, and the way to govern those in a way that really assures it. And there's such exciting opportunities. Iceland actually crowdsourced their constitution. There are examples of people doing this, and I think we have an opportunity for a great step forward. I'd love to talk with you more, but I see we're running into time where we need to get questions from our audience. Do you have another comment before I turn it over to Melanie for questions?
So just to be clear, we have some courts. We have a fragmented system that works on some levels and doesn't work on most levels. We have the International Criminal Court. We have the ICJ. These are courts, again, which is part of what you need to make a system work, but it's only part of it. So if for a government to work, you need a court system, but you also need an executive and a parliament and an enforcement mechanism, an enforcement agency. So it's part of the answer, but it's not the whole answer.
All right, so let's go ahead, Melanie, and turn it over to people's questions.
Well, Roger, I just want to say thank you so, so much. This is so heartwarming, and I feel, we're on the same page, and it's so nice to see people believing and knowing, and we have all these systems that are happening now that are better, and there is hope. We can do this. So yes, we have folks, if you want to raise your hands, if you have a question, just raise your digital hand, and I'd like to go to Quanta first. Go ahead, Quanta.
Thank you very much. Actually, I did write my question in the chat. You have mentioned, Mr. Roger, that it takes only 3.5% of the population to make changes. And I sort of calculated as I was listening to you, people below the poverty level is about 37 million, and 3.5% of the US population, it says poverty population would be about 1.3 million. And I am sure there are 1.3 million people that are that would be interested in economic rights. But do you think that in the United States, I'm not speaking about other countries, the problem is tribalism? Group interest has fragmented collective power. How can we unite people about their rights for economic upliftment rather than just self-interest? This group wants this, that group wants that. The power has been fragmented, and I think intentionally. Can you address that, please?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the fact is that the people who are disadvantaged financially because of the current situation, and if you use the U.S. as an example, there's people on the left and the right, and they are polarized, but they're all disadvantaged, and they're all struggling. So they have a very deep common connection in that struggle, and I think you're right that the people in power probably intentionally are keeping people divided because it takes the attention away from what they're doing, which isn't always the best for the country. But I think that the way to unite those people is to come up with a solution that resonates with them, which would be, of course, a way to take the power away from the multimillionaires and the billionaires who are currently running this planet. And to do that, we need to rise up, and we need to create a movement that is nonviolent but serious, and we need to demand of our leaders that they join the World Federation. And it's not an unreasonable demand. And of course, the big countries are going to resist it, and some of the small countries are going to like it, and they're going to join probably fairly straight on. So we can create a coalition of the people who are in favor, and then we can build it from there. But we need to come up with a proper, as we discussed earlier, a proper construction and a very well thought out plan, so that we don't have the same problems that we already have with the current democracies. There's not a single, I'm probably going a little bit too far here when I say this, but there's probably not a single democracy that I would want to base the World Federation on. We, I think, want to base it on taking all of the things we've learned, the lessons we've learned from the current democracies, the lessons we've learned from new ideas and innovations. The citizens' assemblies is a brilliant use of a new form of democracy that we can all get around, I think, get behind. And there's a book I just started reading recently called politics without politicians. If someone said to me today, instead of having the government that you have now, we could just randomly pick people out of the population, I'd probably say yes, let's do that, because it might very well be better than what we have. But yeah, I think there's a commonality between people, both left and right, not just in financial, but on war, on nuclear war, on climate change, on AI, that we can bring people together through those issues.
Right. There's more people, I believe, that agree that we want a safe place, a planet where, we feel like we can prosper and have something to leave our children. I mean, there's so many points that we agree on. Yes, I'd like to go to Stefan. Stefan, go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. And yeah, I'm familiar with citizens' assemblies. One of the things in Canada that we have is Fair Vote Canada. I don't know if there's such a movement in the States. It also, whenever you're under a two-party system, it's doesn't maybe have the same clout, but it could make a difference. If you had proportional representation. Maybe smaller parties would have a better opportunity. At any rate, what I wanted to address here is the idea of 3.5%. I believe you said 3.5% of the population can make the change. I've always thought of that as being positive, but just as I was thinking about it, I thought, hold it, isn't that what we have now? Don't we have a very small percentage of people making the decisions, having the power? And what we really want is not the 3.5%. We want everyone involved. And so I've always thought of that as being positive, like, oh, good, if we get enough people together, we can make a change. But that's what's holding the system in place. We have 3.5% of people who have way too much power, and the rest of us don't have it. So maybe, Roger, if you could just comment on that. It's a real reversal in my thinking, because I hadn't thought of it this way before.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the 3.5% is actually, just to be clear, is a number that of active participants in a movement. So it's not necessarily people in the streets, but people doing things, making phone calls, doing other actions that toward the goals of that movement. It probably reflects more like 25% of the population's desires. But this 3.5% thing is all about a movement to make change, to make positive change. So I agree with you that there's a very small percentage of people, probably less than 3.5%, who are in charge. And I think our systems, again, misaligned with our with life on Earth, our systems upregulate people who are wealthy. They upregulate people who are loud, upregulate people who are confident. And some of those, sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's okay, but most of the time it's not. And what we end up then with is the people who attain positions of power are the ones that we probably would rather were not in power. And this is I'm going back to a story about us during our hunter-gatherer phase, when we had small groups of people, where let's say 50 people or less. If someone tried to assert themselves as being more powerful than someone else, or someone tried to take an unfair share of the spoils of the hunt, or if someone tried to tell you what to do, everybody knew each other. People like that would be ostracized. They'd be kicked out of the group in short order. Those are the same people, though, that are now getting into positions of power. And a lot of them are narcissists. I mean, there's some of them that are psychopaths. Like, we have to face reality here. You can't wage war the way that some of these people wage war and not be a psychopath, like, literally. So I really think we need to have systems that do not that are designed to represent the entire cross-section of society. And that's why citizens' assemblies are such a good tool. They're not the only answer, obviously, but such a good tool because they represent a cross-section of society. So half the people are low-income people, half the people, and there's psychopaths involved, but there's only 1% of them because that's how many there are in the population. I suspect it's much higher in Congress.
Right. And then the money thing, that whole economy is supposed to be your management of your household. That's all it is. And if somebody in your household has everything, like this example I'm getting from Matthew Cook, who does Survivor's Guide to the Earth, you're in a house and you have a home invader and they're using your kitchen, they got the refrigerator open, you're huddled down in the basement looking out, trying, you don't get any of that space, and they're eating their food and doing all that stuff. So anyway, so the economics is so important, and people having power and money and being psychopath is what we have now. Sutiti, you have a question or a comment?
A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the esteemed guests here who are present, and very good evening to Arthur sir and Melanie. So excited to see you after a long time. I don't have any question, but I just want to say thank you for creating such safe spaces, where we get to know so much of information and knowledge about what's happening. So many perspectives, so many esteemed speakers you're bringing in this panel, which is very, very encouraging for the young generation to know what's happening. It's knowledgeable, informing, empowering. And thank you for organizing such conversations where you not only give people the opportunity to express their views, but also different views. And it's a safe space for everyone. So it's so nice to meet all of you with such knowledge, experience you're sharing. It's very encouraging and thriving for the young generation to, get motivated. So thank you to all of you. It was really nice listening to the Mr. Robert Abbiss, and different things are also happening, and it's very important for the people to know. It's so nice. Thank you for organizing such discussions, and I really look forward to such discussions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sutiti. And you're such a light. You're such a light. And again, oh my gosh, Roger, a pleasure to meet you, a pleasure to have you here with us. And I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I just want to I'll send it back to Arthur for the close. Arthur, take it away.
Yes, I thank you, Melanie. And I do want to take a couple more minutes because we have enough time here to show you more of the exciting things on his website. So I'm going to share my screen here a minute because I think this actually speaks to many of the things we've been talking about. So to show you a little bit more, here on the website, not only do you talk about the failed systems, you give a key to how this kind of change could end war, could halt climate change. It could control AI. And when you go to the website, you can click on each of those and find out more. And then it tells you more about what is Occupy Earth. It's not a United Nations. It's a United People. See, that's the key thing. The UN didn't work because it was trying to unite the nations who each think they're supreme, and so they create great visions like the wonderful strategic development goals. They're fantastic. But again, it doesn't have any teeth and it doesn't have people. There's no way we the people can have any interaction with the UN. It's only nation states. So we really need a united peoples. And so, and then this is more about people talking and how they come together, a single platform where humanity speaks its voice. Now, if you think about this, almost every constitution says we the people create governments, that government is based on the will of the people. But there's no way currently for the people of the world to express their will at the global level. None. So if we can create a platform where we can actually bring what is the voice of the people, what is it people want, that'll have incredible power. That'll unleash the superpower, by keeping us divided, 1% stay in power. But once we stop being divided and we come together and create a single voice of, what is it that humanity wants, then all the corporations, all the governments, everybody will come running to us because we are actually the source of power. We feel powerless because they've divided us, but we are the source of power. And so you can go there and you can sign up with your name and get more information on the latest updates, what's wrong with this picture, etc. Now, also, if you go to this and you click through a little bit more, the fix. I love what he has here about the fix. Okay, so peace on earth. This time we are serious. We're serious. So the foundation of every society is law, a rule-based order, and we see how that's now totally broken down inside the United States and in other empires where autocrats rule, and they are not subject to the we the people having law. So that's what's aiming us to destabilize everything. Mankind's desire for peace can only be created by the creation of a world government, Einstein said. He loved Gary Davis's idea. He said that Gary Davis had the key to whether humanity would survive or do itself in. And Gary's solution was a people-based world government, not top-down, but bottom-up. So this is a global problem. We've tried the United Nations, we've tried all those things, but the global problems require global solutions. Wow, that's great. And so this is a declaration of interdependence. We've had declarations of independence, but we need to, in our connected world, our survival depends on each other. Really, that's where our survival depends on, you and I and all of us getting together. We each hold in our hands the key for our survival as people and survival of all the animals and all the species, because we actually, humans, have somehow come into that power, and we haven't yet developed the brain circuitry to be able to handle it. And now we need to do that. We need to come together. And so this is where he talked about the Supreme Court of the Earth, real accountability, real representation, real peace, and a parliamentary chamber. In the UN, there's no chamber of by and for the people. I think once we, the people, create the digital tools to bring our opinions to the highest level of humanity, then naturally the nation states are going to want to come together with that. They're going to want to evolve the UN under the charter reform to actually include the representation of the people in that digital interactive democracy of the people. So again, you can sign up there and get involved. Occupy Earth. And there's so much more when you go to that website. So I'm going to stop my share and invite everybody to come to that. And now we have a few more minutes for Roger to give us a few closing comments on what your vision was as you created that website and how you see that evolving to help empower humanity.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Arthur. That's great. That was a nice little demonstration of the site there. A lot of people know that we have problems. I think we all know there are problems in the world, and especially this group, I'm sure. But we have to come together to solve them, and we talk about that all the time. There's a pretty regular sign off on posts and articles and things like, two things. One, now is the time, and take action. But they don't really tell you what action to take. I mean, sometimes they do, but it's often the same we've been hearing for decades. The action is often recycle your soda cans and call your representative. And, and it's partly, I think, partly what appears to be apathy among people around the planet. It is just that they don't know what to do. Like there hasn't been a plausible solution put in front of them that they can believe in, because they know that recycling their soda cans is not the answer. They know that calling their representative isn't going to make that much difference. And they know that the people that are telling them that know that too. So if they know that we know, then they have, a serious problem with believing in what you're saying. So one of the arguments I get is, well, it's this is too big, this is too difficult. We're not going to. How's this ever going to happen? Well, I would argue that this is what people are looking for, because the size of the problem, we have to match the size of the solution to the size of the problem, and we haven't done that. Recycling your soda cans is not doing that. Calling your representative is not doing that. We have to get together, we have to get organized as human beings to be able to tackle these problems. And that's what Occupy Earth is all about. And so I would say, in closing, thank you so much for this time. And please go to the site, please join for updates, and please spread the word. Because together is the only way this works. Together is the only way we can make this happen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Together, this is the only way we can make this happen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, I'd like to thank so many of you. Some of you came to this from megameeting.com, which our wonderful friend has helped set up, Ozwem Asiri. And when you did, you signed up for this mega meeting, you also got a link to our club social. Well, that means that this is kind of both a podcast, a mega meeting, and a social interaction where we can all meet with each other and can talk. And the first week of every month, we have a social where you are on the floor. This is for you to talk about your thoughts and concerns and get together. So I hope each of you will come back. Well, thank you so much, Roger. It's really inspiring to begin to think about what are better ways that we can run this world. How can we as a people invent a better way that we can lift humanity out of these crises and bring us into the future that really is within all of our hands? So remember, this is the place where we come together, watch our movie, The World is My Country, and join us in building a people-powered planet.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video.